We'll go, actually it's a combination of a few things here. We have a question from the audience and also from the chamber. It has to do with the DM&E line. What is your position on the coal trains is what the audience wants to know. But the chamber, can you tell us if you share the concerns expressed by Mayo Clinic and others in the community who are concerned about the growth of hazardous materials and potentially large numbers of trains on that line? What would you intend to do about this, I think is the direction that we'll take this. What would you intend to do about this? Congressman Walz, you can go first.
Well, the one thing about this question is you don't have to know what I intend to do. You know that what the situation was 3 years ago. A lack of leadership, a lack of transparency, a $2.5 billion middle-of-the-night boondoggle with no one providing a clear voice on what they would do about it. I came forward and said, I'll step in, I'll lead on this, I'll make sure that this doesn't become a partisan issue, and we will get this thing right. As it pertains to the DM&E, we were able to stop that, and as it worked out, you had one of the most unsafe, unfiscally sound railroads in the country. And I remember when I had this discussion at that time with the chairman of the DM&E, Kevin Schieffer, he wouldn't speak with me, and he said, you know, it's a good thing you and I will never have to work together. He is no longer with DM&E tomorrow. We have new players. We have new players because there's cooperation being built. I've met dozens of times with the Rochester Coalition down in Winona, all the way out to Brookings, and I've had in my office the CEO of Canadian Pacific, Fred Green, on 5 different times. Immediately when we're on the phone to anything that's happening on this. This is, again, a false choice. We can build and expand our infrastructure, and if it is the Canadian Pacific building to move our commodities, to move our cellulosic ethanol, or to move coal from the Powder River Basin, because I'll tell you what, if you don't believe in coal, turn these lights off right now, because that's where it's coming from. But you can do it by protecting the Mayo Clinic with the mitigation that needs to be done, and it's a win-win-win, and guess what in all that? It creates jobs, it protects an asset, and you know what it does? It quits pitting us against each other in this country and realize there are common solutions, whether it's DM&E, energy, the economy, or our national policy. It's about solving problems, and I did that here on this issue.
Dr. Davis, 90 seconds.
90 seconds. Well, I think it's a very good thing that, frankly, that the DM&E was purchased by the Canadian Pacific, because they are a large railroad that has a great safety record. I do also agree, this is something I agree on, that we need a win-win situation, and we can have it. I do support the Rochester Coalition, and of course, as an employee on leave of absence with the Mayo Clinic, I know the importance of making sure that we have mitigation. We don't have hazardous material in trains that are going hundreds of yards away from ICU beds where we can't transport patients. The Mayo Clinic is a gem of an institution. This has been a bipartisan approach that has worked well with Senator Coleman, Governor Pawlenty, and also Senator Klobuchar. We can't have mitigation. Now, I had a briefing by the Mayo Clinic and others over a month ago as a candidate, not as an employee. And I assume that Congressman Walz had the same briefing. And what was discussed in that is that there is being investigated right now the possibility of a bypass around Rochester. And that may be something that would work very well. It would create jobs, and that we could have a transportation hub south of the city that would include air, rail, and truck. I-90, and also the airport right there with the rail. That would be fantastic. But we have to investigate this further. The studies are being done. It's something that needs to be addressed. But it is also important that this clean coal from the Powder River Basin out of Wyoming can get to market. There are 2 railroads that service that area now, the Burlington Northern and the Union Pacific. Looks like that we'll have a third.
A rebuttal, Mr. Walz?
Well, I'm glad we agree on this, and I think many of us heard it's a pretty big shift that Dr. Davis came on this is admitting that the way this worked was providing government oversight and regulation that works for the people while allowing the private sector to function in its own right. That's exactly how the system's going to be. So when we come back and talk, and I'm sure the question will come up on the economic situation, let's keep it in the framework of what we both agreed on is a working model of collaboration that can be a win-win. The same thing can happen in the environment.
Your rebuttal, Dr. Davis?
Well, I mean, it's clear that government has a role to play in these type of issues. There's eminent domain issues. Free market doesn't mean that we are a society without laws, and we do have laws that govern this type of thing, and we work within the laws to make sure that we get the best outcome for all the parties involved. And I'm very optimistic that that can be done for the city of Rochester. We're moving the coal from Wyoming, and also the businesses in and around Rochester.
All right, our next question.